Hello, my dear students. I'm Dr. Vaishali Bharambe, Professor Anatomy. And today we're going to discuss oogenesis part 2, which includes discussion in detail about ovulation and corpus luteum as well. So, let's revise what we did in oogenesis 1. Okay. So, this is a section of the ovary, and here primary oocyte was arrested in diploteine phase or prophase in the embryonic life of the female whose ovary you're looking at right now. So this primary oocyte was surrounded by follicular cells to produce a primordial follicle. When one of these primordial follicles was called on to enter into ovarian cycle, the cells increased in number to form a primary follicle. The follicular cells multiplied some more and developed cavity in it to form a secondary follicle. And then the cavity increased so much in size that it converted into a Graafian follicle. We had discussed up till here last time, and at this moment, what happened was meiosis 1 got completed and there was formation of a secondary oocyte and first polar body. We also discussed how secondary oocyte entered into the metaphase of prophase of meiosis 2 and got arrested there. That is the stage at which we are beginning our class today. So, here is what we are going to now enter into ovulation. The secondary oocyte will be released from the Graafian follicle by process of ovulation along with the first polar body. Come, so let's study ovulation. Okay, so ovulation, define it first. It's the release of secondary oocyte from the ovary along with surrounding granulosa cells, etc. by process of ovulation. How does it occur? Come, I'll explain it to you. So what happens is, as you saw, there's a Graafian follicle which has increased quite a bit in size, almost 2 to 2.5 centimeter. It begins to protrude on the surface of ovary, producing a pale area called as the stigma. This is avascular area, okay? Fluid within the follicle is perpetually increased in size and the cells are becoming a little loose because of the pressure of the fluid. And finally, fluid pressure builds up to such an extent that the follicle begins to protrude on the surface in the form of a small vesicle. Finally, what happens? The stigma tears at that point, leading to rupture of the follicle. Can you see that? How the follicle ruptures? And the secondary oocyte and all its surrounding structures are released out. The fallopian tube is of course sitting in catching position to pick it up. This is called ovulation. Question is, we are here. So this is ovulation. What are the factors that brought about ovulation? How did it happen? See, there was an enzyme collagenase which was busily digesting the follicular wall. The fluid pressure was increasing in the Graafian follicle. Prostaglandin levels have started to cause contraction of the ovarian smooth muscle when there is a sudden luteinizing hormone surge that triggers ovulation. These are the factors that promote ovulation. What is the time? When does this happen? This happens 14 days before the onset of next menstrual period. Now, this is something very interesting. The interval between menstruation and ovulation may vary, but the interval between ovulation and menstruation is always a constant of 14 days. Note that. What is shed from the ovary now? Something has been shed, right? What is it? A secondary oocyte, a first polar body lying in the perivitelline space, surrounded by zona pellucida and corona radiata cells. This is what gets shed from the ovary, from the Graafian follicle at the time of ovulation. The released secondary oocyte is of course picked up by uterine tube. The ciliary beats, the muscle contractions, quickly causing the oocyte to begin its journey within the fallopian tube. Then. So this is what has happened. You can see the secondary oocyte being released. These are the leftover granulosa cells, these are the leftover theca interna, and the blood vessels. They're all just sitting there. They've lost the one character they were all protecting and taking care of. There is some applied aspect of ovulation you need to really know. Remember that ovulation is sometimes associated with a pain called Mittelschmerz or mid pain. Sometimes also associated with a little bit of vaginal bleeding. Why are we talking about this? Because sometimes a pregnant woman remembers this bleeding and thinks this was her last menstrual period, and the whole calculation can go wrong. Okay? Above 2 are sometimes taken as indicators of ovulation. Basal body temperature is also a good indicator of ovulation. We are discussing this because when the female ovulates is very important during infertility treatments. That's why we are discussing each of these points a little bit more in detail. Take a look at this table. Can you see that from day 1 to day almost 14, the temperature rises, and at 14, it just dips. Okay? So this dip, many times women keep on taking their temperature, trying to understand when they're ovulating, so that at that time they are primed for fertilization. Administration of clomiphene citrate. Now this is important. When you give a patient clomiphene citrate, instead of one ovarian follicle, multiple ovarian follicles mature. So multiple secondary oocytes are released. This can cause your patient to conceive multiple pregnancies. She can have twins, she can have triplets. Versus, if she does not conceive, she's lost out on more number of primary oocytes or secondary oocytes than she would in a normal cycle. So see, understand that a female has got only 40,000. So you can't waste those oocytes by repeatedly giving patient clomiphene citrate. Maybe the male partner is infertile and we are just wasting her secondary oocytes and carrying her towards infertility too. Anovular bleeding, a bleeding without any ovulation. Now this is interesting and important because with this we come to what exactly happens when a patient takes oral contraceptive pills. Okay, so oral contraceptive pills or OC pills actually are just sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone. They act on the hypothalamus and pituitary gland and they inhibit secretion of gonadotrophic hormones. So, if there is no gonadotrophic hormone, there is no follicle formation. Okay? Because there is no follicle formation, there is going to be no ovulation. No ovulation, no oocyte, no fertilization. Contraception successful. So, suppression of ovulation is the basis for success of OC pills. You must understand this. This is part of your day-to-day life. After ovulation, what? After ovulation, corpus luteum formation. So, let's take a look. So, this was after ovulation. You can see the whole wall of the Graafian follicle just collapses inwards. Okay. The wall, the granulosa cells develop a yellow pigment in them, which is converting them into granulosa lutein cells. Lutein means yellow. Some blood vessels also enter inside into this, till now, avascular place. Many books talk about blood collection in the center of the granulosa, into the center of the Graafian follicle. But there are also books which say that this is not possible. Okay, so let's leave it at that and move on. So after ovulation, the enlarged granulosa cells here, okay, they form granulosa lutein cells. They form the main bulk of your corpus luteum. But you remember there were theca interna cells in the surrounding. So these theca interna cells also come in. They also form what are called theca lutein cells. And they also contribute to formation of corpus luteum. So together these cells form an endocrine gland called corpus luteum. What is the function of this gland? What is it doing? It's producing progesterone. What is the effect of this progesterone? It's converting the uterine lining, okay, making it optimal for implantation in case there is a fertilization. The uterus lives in hope. Every time it hopes that there is fertilization. And for that, it prepares actively. So the corpus luteum is going to secrete progesterone, which causes the uterus to become highly fertile ground for implantation. Just remember that granulosa secrete progesterone while theca lutein is said to secrete more of estrogen. So what next now? The meiosis II is still arrested, no, in metaphase, you remember. So what happens? If the secondary oocyte is not fertilized, what will happen? The corpus luteum will persist for 12 to 14 days only, reaching 1 centimeter diameter. This is called corpus luteum of menstruation. The granulosa cells begin to secrete inhibin. This acts on anterior pituitary, inhibiting release of gonadotrophins, leading to regression of corpus luteum over the next few days. Slowly, corpus luteum regresses and it forms corpus albicans. It knows that there has been no fertilization, I don't have a job anymore. It forms a scar tissue called corpus albicans. The loss of the progesterone that the corpus luteum was secreting results in menstrual bleeding. Okay. What about the secondary oocyte and polar body in this case? So what happens is they die within 12 to 24 hours and they are discharged with the uterine bleeding. What was meiosis II completed? No, meiosis II was not completed. The story ends with incomplete meiosis II. It's like an art movie, but it just doesn't give you an ending. Okay, meiosis II remains arrested, secondary oocyte is gone. But what about the other ovarian follicles who also tried to make a journey to become the Graafian follicle? The remaining secondary follicles undergo atresia. The theca cells, however, will persist as an interstitial gland secreting estrogen for some time, after which they also regress. But what if there was fertilization? Now let's understand. Now the secondary oocyte and first polar body are stimulated to continue with meiosis II. Secondary oocyte completes meiosis II, forms ovum and second polar body. Ovum receives most of the cytoplasm and half the chromosomal matter. Second polar body receives the other half of nuclear material and almost no cytoplasm. Again, unequal division. Okay. First polar body may also divide by meiosis II, okay, and form 2 more polar bodies. Come, let's take a look. So we had done the journey up till here. Secondary oocyte was arrested in meiosis II. So meiosis II resumes with fertilization. Secondary oocyte divides to form ovum and second polar body. First polar body divides to form 2 more polar bodies. So you've got maybe 3 polar bodies, but you've got the ovum which has all the cytoplasm. And it has got 23 chromosomes and 1 N DNA. Okay, so that's how oogenesis gets completed. Thus, we should understand that oogenesis gets completed only if fertilization occurs and not otherwise. Otherwise, like I told you, it's an art movie and you never see the ending to really understand it. But if there is fertilization, you have the ending you want. The patient goes on to have a baby. What is the effect of fertilization on corpus luteum? Corpus luteum is extremely happy. Okay, there is fertilization, there is formation of corpus luteum of pregnancy. So corpus luteum begins to increase in size. It's quite happy with its role in life now. Okay, so it's large, it's occupying half the ovary. It is secreting progesterone, which is essential for maintenance of pregnancy. Okay, you have to have that uterus in that state. This will go on till the placenta says, okay, I can do this role now. And at around 3 to 4 months of pregnancy, corpus luteum finally regresses. Placenta takes over the job. Okay, and it leaves behind a scar called corpus albicans. So, this was ovulation. This is corpus luteum formation, secretion of progesterone, hoping for a pregnancy. and finally corpus albicans. And thus we have completed a whole journey through this is the diagrammatic representation, but very beautiful one, which tells you the whole story of what all happens in the ovary. Primordial follicle, primary follicle, secondary follicle, Graafian follicle. At around this time, completion of first meiotic division, formation of secondary oocyte, ovulation, corpus luteum, corpus albicans. Please understand that this journey is beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and if you do, like, share and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon. Do visit my website vbanatomy.com. I have got detailed lectures, downloadable notes, videos on surgical anatomy, on histology, and a lot of MCQs. Why don't you come and test your knowledge? Solve those MCQs. Please share your thoughts about my lectures in the comment section. It helps me to understand whether I'm doing things right for you. I'm determined to make sure that optimum education in anatomy is available for medical students worldwide through my channel and my website vbanatomy.com. Link for all of this are there in the description section. Please watch Oogenesis 1, which was the part 1 of today's lecture. The question this lecture can help you solve are: write a note on ovulation, write a note on corpus luteum with applied aspects for ovulation. Thank you, students. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Remember, this lecture will be very useful for you even later in your post-anatomy when you probably are dealing with a case of infertility. Okay, so bye. I'll see you next time.